Hi everyone, I'm Joey. I'm going to be making this kind of art piece really. I'm calling it the exo stand. And what I want to do is create like an exoskeleton of a piece of furniture. Strip away all the stuff you don't absolutely need and then let's see what's left. And well, I think this is about as simple and complex as it's going to get. First thing I did was get started on the walnut cube, which kind of houses the drawers, and I have this cool little jig which I hardly ever use for my router table, but it's perfect for making these bridle joints. Once all that corner joinery was done, I just had to glue up each of the side frames. Okay, so I've ended up getting the Rimu all milled down, all the parts I need. I've got stacks of the walnut slats that I need, and these frames are just about ready to come out of the clamps. But first, I'll have lunch. When I first had the idea of making this cube, I really wanted to avoid having to do a three-way miter, and I thought what would be the best way to do an exposed three-way corner. So what I've decided to do is the bridle joint, which you've already seen, and then I'm adding a full through tenon through that, and I think it creates a really nice detail actually. And I was able to add the runners, the walnut kind of drawer slides runners, into that cube while it was still in the clamps. Using the same router setup, I could make the bridle joints for the base frame, the leg assembly, I guess you'll call it. With the leg assembly dry fit, I can move over to the panther router again and create the through mortise and tenons for the stretches. The stretches between the legs, which run front to back, I've added some notches here to take the slatted shelves, which will sit underneath the drawer unit. Alright, so I've got the two components made that I knew I wanted to make. So I've got a base and I've got some slats, some walnut slats that will fit on here. And I've got the cube which is going to sit on the top. I haven't actually set it on there like that before. I kind of like how it sits just like that. I was thinking putting something like this on the top, separate the top from the base. I'd always kind of envisaged that the cube wasn't going to touch the base, and I think that there should be some kind of small halving joint or something between these three components. But I think this piece is too small. I might have to make a bigger piece. But I kind of like it also sitting just down on the frame, so I have to make a decision on what I do. So I've already added a little, just a rebate joint here. I've decided to use a bigger profile of Rimu, and I've just got the walnut cube sitting on the top. Everything's just kind of sitting as I want it. So I'm going to mark where I want to put, or what I want to do. I'm going to sit this down into this, I think. Yeah, let's do it like that. After some considerable sanding and finishing up, I started using a wipe-on polyurethane. Really, it's just a thinned down satin polyurethane that I happen to have. This process took a bloody long time, so this is all you're going to see. The Rimu that I had for this job was all kind of an odd size, and everything had to be glued up, including the drawer sides. So pretty much all the panels you see from now on were just glued up out of bits and pieces of whatever I could make work. Believe it or not, this is the first time I've ever done finger joints and box joints. So I read the instructions on how to do this with the Panto router, and it worked really well. So I probably will do this again because it was pretty straightforward with this machine. Alright, so I've got all the drawer parts finished. I've got my finger joints cut. I've added a groove for the drawer bottom. So these are just about ready to go together. I've just got to sand the internal faces, and I've got to look at the drawer bottoms, which I'll show you in a second. So I had some slightly darker planks of Rimu, which I've used for the drawer bottoms. Luckily, it's all quarter sawn, so I'm not going to have to worry too much about movement with them, because they're going to be fully encapsulated in the drawer box. And I only just had enough material to do what I want. So like this piece has got some checking in it, which this kind of checking with this white material in it is pretty standard for Rimu. and I think the white is old dried sap, which is formed in the cracks. So one side, there's definitely an A and a B side to these drawer bottoms because of how tight it was to get the material I needed from the stock I had. There's bits and pieces which I've put the bad side down, obviously. So I've got 3 of these I need to flatten out and smooth off, and so I'll get onto that before I can glue up the drawer boxes. The drawer bottoms ended up slightly thicker than my groove, so I just eased the edges with the hand plane to make them fit. Done upside down. With the drawers glued up and sanded, mostly, I was able to cut the grooves in the side that will fit into the runners on the walnut cube. Okay, so I just made up these kind of caps for the end of the drawers. So I'm going to glue that on and glue one of those on each side. While that was gluing up, I was able to put the walnut slats into place, and I had masked off the bottom of the slats and the top of those stretches, so it's a wood to wood joint. There's no polyurethane getting in the way. The drawer on its back, and this is the batten that's going to hold the, go on top of the front of the lid. And I had forgotten to cut this square out. I should have done it when I cut the square out for this post. But to let this pivot, I need either to round off this edge or take that out. And for this design, I'd rather not have any curves. So I'm just going to cut this out, which is a bit of a pain now after the fact. I had a piece of 25mm brass rod, so just chopped a bunch of pieces off on the lathe and to make some nice big washers, and that covers the expansion slot as well. Now, I didn't have any brass that was anywhere near 6mm, but I did have some 6mm aluminium, and that's what I used for the pivot point. After quite a while of clear coating and waiting for it to dry in the cold weather we've been having, I was able to finally wax up the grooves and finally assemble the top. Something I really wanted to achieve was to be able to have the drawers work both ways, so there was no real front or back to the unit. I think it looks really cool. I haven't actually tried sliding it in, so let's give it a go. So I like that you could almost use this piece for a room divider or something like that, where it can be accessed from both sides. It's very neat. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you on the next one.